All right, it is 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the February 17th, 2025 meeting of the Bay City City Commission. Will the clerk please give the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Prince.
Here.
Coakley.
Present.
Bernie Overshaw.
Present.
Tenney.
Here.
Hilliker. DeWitt.
Here.
Runberg.
Here.
Charlebois.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
And Mr. Mayor.
Present. Is there a motion to excuse Commissioner Hilliker, Commissioner Prince?
Motion to excuse.
Is there a second? Commissioner Morse?
Second.
Any objections to excusing Commissioner Hilliker? Seeing none, she is excused. All right, and we have a quorum. There is no closed session, so we move on to presentations. Today we have a presentation from the Michigan Public Power Agency. Mr. Webster is going to introduce our speaker, and I will turn it over to him.
Good evening. As we've mentioned in the past, there's a lot of new commissioners here, and we work quite regularly with the Michigan Public Power Agency. So we thought it would be an appropriate time to bring their general manager and CEO, Pat Boland, in to come and just give a little bit of an overview of what MPPA is, what they do for the city of Bay City, just give a little bit of insight on the energy future and how it affects our community. So with that, I will turn it over to Pat Boland.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for having me. I try to get out to each one of our 22 members. I try to do it every year, but it's a difficult haul considering particularly if I want to attend one of their governing body meetings like this one. But the idea really is to update each of our members on what is actually happening with the electricity marketplace and the industry itself, which is under profound change. I'm sure most of you are well aware of that. But then also to understand, how Bay City, the utility itself, fits into the activities of MPPA and how we work and partner together. So I have a quick little slide deck here. We can keep it informal if there's questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of rip through here over about a 10 to 12 minute time period. So what is MPPA? So back largely in the 1970s, although this a little bit in the 80s and a smattering thereafter, joint action agencies were formed across the United States. Here in Michigan, there was a law passed, it was called Public Act 448 in 1976, and 2 years later, MPPA was formed. And there was a very specific reason for that. On average, city-owned utilities are a fraction of the size of investor-owned utilities. In order to compete from a cost perspective, the best way to do that is to share resources with other like-minded public power city-owned utilities. And that's exactly what a joint action agency is. There's about 70 entities across the country that are not all joint action agencies, but they're power supply consortiums that are set up really to provide two things: economies of scale, real simple economic concept we've all learned, and then risk reduction, so the ability to spread risk over lots of different resources. So in our case, we're about roughly 10-ish% of the electric load in Michigan, made up of 22 members. There are other public power utilities that are not part of MPPA, and they make up a couple percent of the electric load thereafter. So don't want to bog down in gigawatts and megawatts and kilowatts because that confuses people, but roughly about 300,000 customers are served by our members. And just like this really beautiful building that I'm in and this historic town, a lot of these utilities were formed in late 1800s and early 1900 time period. We're a project-based agency, and it's really an important structural element of our organization. And the reason for that is that a lot of our members had electric power supply, just like Bay City does. Some of our members actually operate those power generation resources routinely. They're providing energy to their community. So MPPA was set up as a project-based agency, which means that the members choose the services and the projects that best fit their needs. And we'll talk about kind of what's been happening over the last few years. But ultimately, our members control the decisions. We have a board. Bay City sits on our board, and I'm going to talk about that here right now. So we have 22 board members. So each of our members has a representative that sits on our board. We call it the Board of Commissioners. But if you're at MPPA, you're likely part of a project. And the project is a recommending body, so they recommend decisions to the Board of Commissioners, and the board votes. So in my 9.5 years at MPPA, I've never seen a recommendation by a project get denied by the Board of Commissioners, but the Board of Commissioners has the fiduciary duty of the organization as their primary responsibility. So it's a democratic vote. Authorized, projects authorized, board approves. We are a tax-exempt entity. We're actually considered a utility in the state of Michigan as well. So, and because of that, we've evolved since those early days in the 1970s. In fact, it's really ironic that I'm standing here today because the two founding resources of MPPA, which were two large coal plants that we jointly owned with Consumers Energy on one side of the state and Detroit Edison on the other side of the state, one's being closed May 31st, and the other one's being repowered to natural gas in 2025. So a very interesting time period in our industry. So I mentioned this early on, but I'm just going to emphasize it again because it's really, of all the things that you hear today, it's one of the most important aspects of this conversation is, again, why is Bay City Electric Light and Power part of a joint action agency? And again, it's the economics of sharing resources and diversifying risk. It's also, another element of it is really sharing expertise. This is a very complicated business. It's gotten more complicated over the last 10 years. We have these large, we call them wholesale electric market operators that basically are like air traffic controllers of the electric grid. They pass rules and tariffs that we all have to abide by. We settle electricity, and it's the actual cost every hour of the year, so 8,760 hours, and generation is dispatched every 5 minutes. So it's a very complex business that with the advent and introduction of more and more renewable power supply resources has gotten a lot more complicated. So as I mentioned, economies of scale is obviously is the key value proposition, but there's also something we call economies of scope. So I was just actually with Adam and Devine. We're talking about different things we're doing as an agency with respect to locating resources or helping our members locate resources inside of their city. And that's a very different structure than we've done in the past, because in the past we've only operated at the transmission grid level, but interconnecting the transmission grid now is about a 4-year waiting list. That's a queue. And getting permits in communities where people don't know you is very, very difficult. So we are actually kind of going back to the basics and trying to work with our members to see if we can locate more reliability-based power supply. And what I mean by that is electricity that actually can be produced on demand, because as more and more intermittent resources are brought onto the grid, having resources that actually can be reliably turned on in a moment's notice is getting harder and harder to do. So the very essence of our organization is pretty simple. Obviously, industry expertise, what I talked about earlier, the sharing, the economies of sharing, risk management. We're in an industry where natural gas and electricity are very volatile commodities, and they require extensive amounts of risk management practices and procedures. And that's the essence of what we do, is to manage financial risk for our members. And then obviously when we go about making decisions about power supply, it's got to be a competitive framework, whether that's a contracted decision or an investment decision. we want to make sure that we have a competitive framework so that our members can get the least cost power supply. We have a strategic plan, like all organizations hopefully do. We develop ours every 3 years, but it's a 5-year plan. And there's a lot in there, which I'm not going to talk about, but the 4 central themes are: how are we going to manage our way through a decarbonization of the electric grid? Decentralization, which is smaller resources, not under our control, that are operated maybe even behind a customer's meter. The end-use customer. I mean, I don't know how many of you have been following what's been happening on the national news, but large companies like Amazon and Apple and Meta, they're wanting to build and own power plants themselves, and you might be asking, well, why would they do that? Well, it's because they're building data centers that are consuming huge amounts of electricity, and they can't get the utilities to build these fast enough. But long before this era that we're in now of data centers, some of these large customers were demanding a certain kind of power supply for themselves, not like it was in the old days in the business. And so meeting the needs of those customers has become a really, really important aspect of our business, helping our members with their large end users. And every community and every demographic of the communities are very different. And we have members that are small, like the city of Harbor Springs, to the Lansing Board of Water and Light. So very, very different demographics, very, very different size utility. And then lastly is engagement. And you might be asking, why is that so important? Well, the more complicated the business, the more we're really wanting the governing bodies, like all of you, to be engaged in the business, because the decisions we have to make are very complicated. And when there's complicated decisions to make, we want to make sure that our members understand the basics of those decisions before we execute those. And I know it's difficult for governing bodies to be experts in the business, but we try through the staff. Some of our members have utility boards. You do not have one here. But the idea there is to bring more expertise and get more engagement in these governing bodies and these decisions that we have to make in our industry. So I'm just going to lightly touch on this, but at the end of 2023, there was new legislation passed in Michigan, new energy legislation. This has kind of been a rule of thumb, but every 8 years in Michigan, we pass new energy legislation. That was true in 2008 under Jennifer Granholm, 2016 under Governor Schneider, and now in 2023 under Governor Whitmer. This legislation is an extremely aggressive set of legislation that wants to increase the amount of renewable energy that utilities like Bay City and Electric Light and Power use to serve their customers, and you can see these numbers now. Currently, the law says you have to be 15% through 2029, thereafter 50%, and then up to 60% by 2035. Even more complicating is this clean energy requirement. I'm not going to get into the weeds, although I will happily answer any questions anyone has. It has a 100% goal by the end of by 2040. So these are very, very ambitious changes. And again, we'll talk about here where some of the complexities are of doing that. This pictorial is kind of helpful for people to understand. There's 8,760 hours in a year. And so those percentages you see there on the left side of the screen, I guess, yeah, depending, it should all be right on the left. That represents the amount of the year that energy is produced from those resources. You can see, so solar in Michigan's right around 22% of the year. Wind is about 35% of the year. And a typical gas or nuclear power plant in Michigan is 80% or more through the year. So you can already see there's a significant difference in the amount of energy produced in a given year by these resources. On the other side of the screen is the amount of reliability that those resources can be counted on providing the electric grid. And reliability is just the ability to produce energy when it's needed. And here you see solar is right around 30%, sort of declining, and I don't have time to get into the reads on that, but it has more to do with some of the rules that have been implemented at the wholesale market level. Wind is very low, about 15% of the year, and then here gas and nuclear are up close to 90% of the year. So again, from a reliability perspective, we have a long way to go. If we continue to add more and more renewable resources, we got to find a way to supplement that, and that's where natural gas resources are very, very important. So we've been kind of in a bit of a lull period since the since the 2008, 2009 financial market crash and the Great Recession we went through. Electric load, we lost 10 years of electric load growth in the course of 2 years in that 2009 to 2011 time period. And ever since then, electric load growth has been very meager, honestly less than 1% per year up until just recently. So once we got out of the other side of COVID, we started to see electric load growth again. There's a lot of reasons for that. But the biggest one is that the technology companies are investing a huge amount of money in the United States to build out data processing computer infrastructure. So you can see that the expected level of load growth is sort of rivaling what we saw in the 1980s. And that's a significant change, which means we've got to build more power plants to serve the load growth, but also to take the place of these retiring coal plants. The result of all of this is this little graphic here that was published by the North American Reliability Coordinator, which otherwise goes by NERC, and they publish an outlook annually, and the area in red, and I know some of you can't see it really, it's called a high-risk area. So we designed the electric system to have a 1-day and 10-year loss of load expectation. That means we're willing to live with 1 day of a power outage over a 10-year period. That's how we design the electric system. That's the amount of reserves, the amount of extra generation that we have standing, waiting to be run in the event that other power generation or transmission lines are offline. And so we design the electric system to meet that criteria, that statistical criteria. And what NERC is saying is basically that area in red is at a threat of not being able to comply with that criteria. So that's a warning shot. That means we need to do more on the power supply side to ensure that we have a reliable electric system in the coming years. So I mentioned earlier about the role that renewable energy has played in your portfolio, and you can see that Bay City back in 2011 was just around 1%. Today, 23% of your power supply comes from renewable resources, and a lot of that is, I think we've executed about just under $1.5 billion, with a B, dollars worth of commitments to solar and wind projects in the state of Michigan over the last 9 years. So very significant effort there. We're starting to slow down now. We have to keep going, obviously, but we've had a ton of problems with import tariffs. We've had problems with COVID supply shocks and labor issues. And so we've lived through a lot of challenges getting these projects online, and we still have 2 more that are expected to come online over the next 12 months. And so we're taking a bit of a breather, and we're really focusing on resource adequacy, which I was talking with your staff there earlier, about how are we going to meet that peak load in the future. So our 2025 work plan is really all about resource adequacy. Again, that's about making sure we have enough reliable resources on the grid to meet our peak requirements. We need to build new systems at MPPA to deal with this large growth in renewable resources, and it's more of a stochastic or a probabilistic modeling requirement. We already do that today, but we need to do more of it, and so we need to build out our systems. Financial stability, both of our members and at the agency, and we publish a business risk and credit risk assessment, for our members each year, in Bay City just received theirs, I think, a few weeks ago now. Transmission asset strategy. We own a lot of high voltage transmission, 345 kV transmission lines. We own those resources because they're a mechanism for us to help keep the power supply cost low for our members. And then staffing. In a very complicated industry, we need to continue to have staff that are skilled and capable of meeting the needs of our members. So this is just a final wrap-up slide, and it's really just a picture. We're in this together. We are really a function of our members, the health of our members. Our members are our bosses in terms of the direction we go. We are an entity that devises strategy and recommends action, but we really can't do it without the partnership and engagement of our members. And so that's why I'm here today, and this is a very quick chat, but I wanted to make sure that I'm reacclimating you to MPPA, and if there are questions that come today or in the future, again, we want to make sure that our members are engaged and knowledgeable about what we're doing and at least have an awareness of some of the challenges that are happening in our industry. So that's all I have. Happy to take any questions if there's time for them.
Questions, Commissioner Prince.
Thank you for coming in today. I do have a couple of questions for you. I assume Mr. Webster is our representative on the commission for MPPA?
Yes, yeah, there's the way we have a primary commissioner and then we have an alternate. And typically the commissioners on our board are the utility directors. Sometimes our small members don't have the city manager sit on our board. We have very, very small, we have a few small members that, you know, the electricity department doesn't have a department head, so the city manager is the commissioner. But in most cases, it's the utility director.
Okay, wonderful. And then for our membership into MPPA, is there any fee charged to the city at all or anything like that? I'm just curious how that is structured.
Yeah, well, you pay my salary. So there's a fee for that. No, seriously, we have an overhead. I have 22 employees. You pay your share for all those employees. You pay for your share of the systems we have. You pay for a share of the outside services that we need. So all of our members share in that. And today, this is kind of like in any industry when you are trying to find somebody who has unique skill sets and knowledge of our industry. It's really hard to find people like that, particularly when you get outside of these big urban areas. And so one of the benefits of having an agency is you get to hire highly skilled people, let them live where they want. We have an office in Lansing, and then just pay a small share of their salary.
Wonderful. Yeah, I have worked with you guys in my professional experience a little bit in Lansing, so I do know that that's definitely required. My next question is regarding the requirements that were set forth in the 2023 legislation. There were off-ramps that the MPSC can provide in case those requirements are not physically able to be reached. Mm-hmm. But we are not regulated by the MPSC. So how does that work exactly for a municipality like us?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think I can say this. I think Public Power, we're independent. We're locally minded entities. Local control is our mantra. Regulatory creep isn't. Unfortunately, the way the Michigan energy legislation works, as far as the requirements under it, all load-serving entities, all utilities are wrapped under that legislation. So we have to comply with it the same way the investor-owned utilities do. Admittedly, I think the Michigan Public Service Commission realizes that we have entities like yourself that make decisions. They don't regulate our rates, but they do regulate resource adequacy, energy waste reduction, and renewable energy. Those are the principal things that they regulate. As you stated, there is off-ramps. There's actually two-year delays. And then there's actually an ability under legislation to even ask for more. I'm hoping that if people are asking for those types of delays implementing legislation, that'll be a sign that the legislation is not working, and it won't just be one utility, it'll be many.
Okay, wonderful. And then my last question for you is, in your presentation, I didn't see anything referred to energy storage. I know that's going to be a big part, especially as we combat the duck curve as more solar comes online. So I was curious if that's on the radar for MPPA.
It is, very much so. We have a couple members that are actually installing battery energy storage systems in their community. We've been looking at some larger projects that we could attach directly to the transmission grid, and we're also looking at opportunities to locate projects in your community itself. Battery energy storage will help. It's got its own set of challenges. Right now, the way the tariffs work is they have to have a 4-hour sustained ability to provide power. That's not long enough in really an electric system to be considered, you know, a long-term reliable resource. And so the technology behind batteries needs to expand to more like a 10 or 12-hour capability. So for now, we have lithium. That's the principal material, and 4 hours is what the capabilities are today. But yeah, we'll be doing some of that. We're trying to make sure we don't, we diversify. We make sure that we're doing it at the right level. But we're also looking to do more thermal power and actually natural gas. Despite the fact that the legislation is in place, we think low-hour peaking resources are still a really important component of meeting reliability down the road.
Wonderful. One last question, just to follow up on that comment. Is natural gas considered, I know it's not renewable, but clean energy if it meets certain requirements under the legislation?
Well, it's certainly a lot cleaner than coal, but under the Michigan Clean Energy legislation, it would still require in 2040 some form of carbon capture under current rules. Obviously, that's a long way away, and you know, technology will always win. We've seen that in every aspect of our lives. I have no doubt that it'll be the solution finder here as well. But carbon capture today is not economic, period. Not without a lot of government subsidy. So we have to make decisions, however, based on meeting reliability requirements in the next 5 years, and we have to do that with technology we know can deliver. The good news for peaking resources, they don't operate a lot of the hours of the year, and so they wouldn't justify carbon capture anyway, and so there's some economic ability. You can still install it, you just have to buy extra energy on to comply with the clean energy standard, but you can still, we call them capacity resources because they just don't operate a lot of the hours of the year.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You all set? All right. Commissioner Tenney.
Thank you, and thank you for being here, sir. Just a quick question. What's the plan, and I'm hoping to get like a one-sentence answer from you, maybe it's impossible.
Hi.
Right on. What is the plan for us to go from 23% to 50% renewable by the end of 29?
I don't know. I'm kidding. Well, we're not going to do that without ensuring that at the same time we have a reliable portfolio. So one of the things we just did, and I think Adam probably got it approved recently, is we did a renewable energy credit transaction only. So we bought firm power supply from a generator, but we bought the renewable attributes only instead of building up a new solar project or a new wind project. Now, we're not going to keep doing that, but that was another tool in the tool bag. Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to achieve, and we're hoping that the economics today as well, I think, are too high. I mean, we bought power, just as an example, for, in your vernacular, 3.9 cents a kilowatt hour. That was a power supply for solar back in 2019. Today it's almost 8 cents. It's a huge difference. So, yeah, stay tuned.
All set, Commissioner? Any other commissioners? Commissioner DeWitt.
I just want to clarify, you mentioned the $1 billion in funding. That is the statewide between the 22 members, not a base city number.
Yes, exactly right.
Just confirming that.
Yeah.
And then something that I am not an expert in power generation by any sense of the imagination, but what options in the nuclear generation do we have in Michigan, and what generation are they?
Yep. Well, there's 2 nuclear plants in Michigan today. One's closed, that you've probably read about, called Palisades. The other one's Fermi 2, which is owned by Detroit Edison or DT Electric. Nuclear's taken on a really interesting and obvious attention more recently because it generates electricity carbon-free. Obviously, there's a spent nuclear fuel problem, and there's a safety problem and a cost problem. Those are the three things that have sort of plagued the nuclear industry. A lot of people see the technology in what's called small modular reactors, SMRs, as a real promising future. And I'm optimistic about it, but it's not going to really be impactful to the electric grid for probably 15 years. The regulatory process, just because of all the safety issues, it's going to take a long time. Now, we are trying to restart Palisades. That's a late 1960s vintage power plant, so it's old. And we'll see how that goes. It's already been delayed 2 years longer than they originally said. Obviously, a ton of federal and state taxpayer money is going toward this, which we can all get wound up about, but that's what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I do expect that technology in the nuclear industry to continue to deliver interesting results, but it's just not going to be impactful anytime soon.
I just wanted that clarification because I know that's kind of a thing that people don't want to talk about until it's going to start happening. So,
right,
saying that the one that's opening is going to be late 60s, that kind of puts me in a mindset of where that is. Thank you.
Right, yep.
Any other questions? Grunberg.
Yeah, just two quick ones. First off, thank you for being here today. Like Commissioner DeWitt here, I'm no expert on energy. Can you just quickly describe the difference between clean energy and renewable energy, just so I can make sure I understand that difference?
That's a good question. So, renewable energy is clean energy, but clean energy isn't renewable energy. Yeah, so the difference is that if it's not produced by a renewable resource and it's produced by a fossil resource, then the emissions have to be captured, and then it's considered clean. Or nuclear power.
All right, thank you for that clarification. The last one should just be an easy one. How long has Bay City been a member of MPPA?
Bay City has been a member of MPPA since its founding. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you, that's all I have.
Yep.
Commissioner Charlebois.
Did you read the book, We Almost Lost Detroit?
No, I haven't.
Just wondering.
No. Should I?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's one of the Fermi plants started to melt down.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Sure. I am a former
Just throwing
DT
it out there.
Okay, yeah. I am a former DT employee, although that was many years ago, 1990s, so my gray hair is starting to slightly show up on the side.
Any other commissioners? The only question I had, thinking about the numbers from 50 to 60%, I mean, are there discussions like end users installing solar on their own and then we purchase power from them into our own grid in order to meet those energy standards? Is that part of the dialogue anywhere in the legislation, or?
Oh yeah, no. So there's a lot of large national end users that have been doing that for a decade or more now. Cities like Bay City can certainly work with their end use customers on programs there. There are some challenges with the rate design because you want to make sure you fully recover your distribution costs, all the infrastructure that you have, so the rates have to fully recover those costs. And it just doesn't add up to a lot of energy, but everything, it's all of the above. There's no limiting factor. I think we're going to look at large-scale projects. We're going to look at nuclear opportunities, but that's not going to happen over the next 5 years. We're really kind of in the short term, we're kind of locked into wind and solar. And right now, that's just not going to get us all the way there. And so, yeah, I think we're really trying to plot out exactly what is going to get us to that final step and then, not sacrifice the reliability on the way. And we're spending every day in the office trying to deliver on that. Fortunately for us, on average, we're further along than our investor-owned utility peers in terms of the amount of renewable energy we have in our portfolio. It's actually pretty astounding. I mean, most of our members are in the mid-20s already, and I feel really good about that. I mean, we're, 150% of what the requirement is currently. So yes, we have a ways to go, and it's going to be difficult, but we've got a good head start.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. We had a nice article about Bay Cities, Light and Power. And Mr. Webster commented for Route Bay Cities, so check that out. So thank you for
I
coming.
will. Thanks for having me.
All right, next order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Commissioner Rundberg.
Move to adopt.
Is there a second? Commissioner Prince.
Second.
All right, do any members of the commission wish to add any item to the agenda? Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the agenda?
Commissioner Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Prince.
Yes.
8 yes.
The agenda for this evening has been adopted. Next order of business is the consent agenda. Do any members of the commission wish to make a change to the consent agenda? Commissioner DeWitt.
Reports for Officers 5 regarding traffic control for Marquette Avenue.
That it, Commissioner? Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Coakley.
Number 8, number 9,
Make sure you read what they were.
Columbus Avenue Management Board minutes and Millen Street Management Board minutes. Number 11, Smith Street. And number 12, Breaker Cove Street, Boulevard becoming a local street.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, the next order of business calls for public input on the consent agenda. This is the opportunity for citizens to remove an item from the consent for consideration on the regular agenda. If anyone in the audience wishes to make a change, please come forward to the microphone, print your name on the registration sheet, state your name and address for the record, and the item you wish to have considered on the regular agenda. Seeing no one come forward, is there a motion on the consent agenda? Commissioner DeWitt.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Commissioner Rundberg.
Second.
Okay, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the consent agenda?
Commissioner Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rundberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Prince.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, the consent agenda has been approved. Next order of business calls for remarks of the mayor and commission. Commissioners have anything they want to say? Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Yes, I have a few questions to the city manager. Have you reached out to any of the attorneys for the bridges yet?
I guess I need clarification. What attorneys?
The attorneys for the United Bridge Partners. Have you reached out to any of them for the breach of contracts?
I believe it was already shared with everybody that I did have a meeting with them.
Okay, so, I mean, recently, and if you have, we haven't heard about it. You haven't gotten in touch with us commissioners. You haven't let us know what they've said or what avenues we're going to take. You haven't had a news press conversation with the people, our constituents. And if you have, what have you come to? What is what are we going to do?
The latest email that you have is the latest information that I have. So there's a meeting tomorrow, and I am not having a press conference.
All right. We haven't gotten an email. I haven't gotten an email. What I need to know is, have you went to our in-house attorneys? Have you made any, has our in-house attorneys looked it over? Has there any appeals been made? Appeals? How about any motions signed with the attorneys? Have we done anything?
Yeah, we're currently in negotiations with United Bridge Partners.
But you haven't said anything to the press? You haven't said anything to the commission?
Negotiations usually are not out in the press. So that is correct. I have not said anything to the press.
But you haven't said anything to us commissioners either. So I feel that we're the commissioners, you are the city manager, and you need to have that conversation with the commissioners.
Commissioner Prince had a quick comment as commission president.
Yes, so the city manager sent an email to the executive officers of the commission, pretty much informing us where those negotiations are. They're currently in negotiations, so it's one of the reasons why it's not out in the open is because there's no firm plan yet, and they're still ongoing. We're negotiating with a private business, so they don't really want it dealt with in the public, and we can get the best deal possible if we work with them instead of against them on this. So that's kind of where it currently is at least from the executive officer's point of view.
Okay, we are commissioners also. You ought to be communicating that with the rest of the commission. You and Dana and Commissioner Gerard are not the only commissioners sitting here. You are to talk to the other commissioners. I don't know where you get off that city manager is a commissioner. She is not.
Look, I get the city manager is not a commissioner. She's the city manager. She's hired to do the day-to-day activities as directed by the commission. We directed her to, or I guess we didn't really direct, but we asked her to initiate these negotiations, and they're still ongoing. There's not really an update outside of that they are ongoing. So that's kind of where we're at. Additionally, you appointed me president, so I'm serving as president and being the lead person. If there's anything to share outside of that they are currently ongoing, I will share them.
I have one more question. In the charter, it states that city manager and the attorneys that we hire, they are here for the commissioners. They are here for us. And when we tell them and we request them to do a job, they are to do that job. We requested them to have an attorney come in immediately. As I said, I'm going to ask again, why have we not heard any more or have any proof that these attorneys have been called, that anything has been done? We have went through this before with the state theater process, and it has always been, we're going to get back to you. We are going to talk to them. It's been a year later, 2 years later, and we haven't heard anything. I want to be on this. It seems that it's been pushed aside. I want to ask you again, can we have proof for the people that we have taken a step? I don't want this to get out of hand as the state theater. We've had 3 lawsuits in the making. When it was time for you to have an attorney come in for them, in the paper it stated it, you were Johnny on the spot. The people need this now. As I said with the state theater, they were there. So why aren't they here for the bridge? I'm asking you that.
So we did discuss that about having attorneys come for the bridges, but they did an attorney opinion, what you got, just like the rest of the commission, stating there was no breach of contract for the questions that you asked last year. So you've already gotten an answer. There was no need for the attorneys to come because the answer was there was no breach of contract. Yeah.
Okay. The bridge partners, they are supposed to give a 30-day notice if they change the cost of the people to cross that bridge. They didn't give a 30-day notice.
That's, Commissioner, so just so you're aware, the attorneys representing the city are involved, and those are the discussions that they're having. Those are the negotiations, and we cannot until we have some kind of resolution, then they would present to the full commission body in a closed session to discuss what was, and so that everybody in this commission body would be then made aware of those discussions. And then that would be made public after we have those discussions.
But she said the same thing with Andy Bacigalupo in the State Theater. We didn't get any proof.
I just want to caution you that you're actually getting names wrong. And so just, you're going to put the city in a very poor opportunity when you misquote names. And actually we're waiting for the lawyers to deal with that other issue right now too. So I just want to caution you, when you misstate names of people involved, it's to your own detriment. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Chairman, I just want one more question. The point is, the people have lost all trust in us. If we remain to do the same thing over and over again, can I ask you, do we have, this is just a question. Do you have any answers for us for the State Theater? This is just a question. Did you solve it?
It's not my place to solve the issue with the State Theater, and we don't have an update because the investigation is not done.
Did you solve any of the 2 lawsuits from Clements, the construction places, and did you solve that?
I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
Just trying to make a
I don't know what you're
point.
speaking.
Are we going to get relief with the bridges? Are we going to get the same answer over and over again? And I'm done. I'm just asking you. We get the same answer from you.
Okay. Commissioner Prince has something.
Just briefly, City of Bay City is not a bankruptcy court, so when we talk about solving it, it has to go through bankruptcy court, which we do not have jurisdiction over, and the city manager. Well, if you're asking for it to be solved, it's not our jurisdiction to solve that lawsuit. We are not a court. Bankruptcy court solves that. So that's there. And then additionally, I want clarification. You had talked about a breach of contract. That was last year.
Correct.
There was no breach of contract. We're talking about currently the rate increase. We do believe there is a breach of contract, and that's what negotiations are about
That
currently.
is correct.
Okay, just
Okay.
wanted to clarify.
Mr. Prince, you weren't even here. You hadn't even sat
okay,
down,
all
young
right.
man.
Point of order,
Yep.
point of order on that.
Okay, Commissioner Coakley had something, and then,
Just to clarify, so right now for negotiations, it's the city manager and lawyers doing them?
Correct.
Myself being part of dozens of negotiations on both sides of it, I realize the importance of not letting the other side know what you're negotiating. Sort of gives up all leverage on everything you're doing. And like I said, it never works out well. I understand what you're doing, but we as commissioners also would like updates with what you can and feel, with what's going on. When something's settled, we will get to know what's going on. Perfect.
Commissioner Tenney.
Just a quick positive comment. With winter finally arriving at our doorsteps, just wanted to give a shout out to the crews that are plowing our streets. I think they've done a very good job the past few days, a week or so, give or take. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Runberg, and then DeWitt.
Yeah, I just have 2 quick things here. First off, the Dream Center, I understand, on Lafayette is open tonight and tomorrow between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. for those who are seeking shelter and try to stay out of those elements that we were just commenting on. And the other thing is, I just want to take a moment tonight to bring attention to some deeply troubling concerns I've received from residents of the Good Samaritan Shelter, as well as members of our unhoused community. These concerns touch on both the living conditions within the shelter and significant operational deficiencies related to access and intake procedures. Residents have reported several health and safety issues, including multiple non-functioning toilets, a broken window left unrepaired for an extended period, and most disturbingly, the presence of blood stains on the walls, and I have been sent pictures about it. There have also been accounts of staff actions with residents that are being described as dismissive or demeaning. In addition to these physical conditions, I've also heard from multiple unhoused individuals who have encountered unexplained obstacles when attempting to access the shelter. They've reported being told that the shelter is at full capacity, despite current residents observing available beds. Even more concerning, some individuals have said they were placed on waiting list, only to later find, after multiple follow-up calls, that their names were never recorded. These issues, if accurate, and I want to emphasize that, I understand there's two sides to every story, go beyond maintenance concerns. They point to potential systematic failures that could leave vulnerable individuals without shelter they desperately need. Given the seriousness of these reports, I intend to introduce a resolution at our next meeting requesting a formal inspection of the shelter. This inspection will evaluate both physical conditions and the intake processes to ensure that the shelter services are being provided in a safe, effective, and equitable manner. We owe it to these residents and to our community to act swiftly because no one in Bay City should have to endure unsanitary conditions or face arbitrary barriers when seeking shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DeWitt.
The first thing I want to, this is a piggyback off of Commissioner Tenney. I got 2 different calls from people that were like very thrilled with the way that street clearing happened over the past 4 to 5 days here. The West Side resident, because they followed up on trash, like they led the trash truck on Thursday morning, and then on the East Side today, they were done by the time they got up in the morning. So they were really thrilled about that. The other thing I have is I know the fire at Carnweedak at the mineral oil is not a Bay City item, but ecological effects of that. Do we know why they had that much out there? Is that part? Do we know if that's part of the production process for the plant, or is that used for like cleaning? Can I hopefully get somebody to answer that for me?
Could you, I missed the first part. You're talking about the consumer's energy?
Yeah, the fire at the old Carnweedak, like 14,000 gallons of mineral oil. Do we know anything about that or any effects of that?
I don't think anything's been.
Yeah, we don't have any information on that because it's not in the city.
Cool. Hopefully it doesn't actually affect us and that trickles through because that's not ideal. And then I want to talk about what I did on Friday, because what I didn't intentionally. I shared information from the executive committee because I am tired with how this is going. The Bridge Partners on Wednesday, there was a protest that I and a couple other members here attended. And from the windows of the EVP offices, we had multiple employees staring down at us with this glaring look of superiority. Like, yeah, we know, but we don't care. And that kind of follows along with the fact that they stopped coming to our meetings to do updates back in September. And then their reversal of policy to the public media in January just led me to be fed up, and I'm tired of them being coddled with negotiations because they are able to call us in, or we call them in, and we don't have to share it because we want them to be as nice as possible when they've proven that they do not want to be nice to us, in my opinion. I want to state that that's my opinion, not of the city itself. So that was my reason for the force out of the information that was shared, and just wanted to let them know that I do not agree with how UVP is operating, and I think that us just trying to play nice with them at this point is beyond repair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Charlevoix?
Yes, I just wanted to know, is the city being sued by the bankruptcy court, or has that been switched to individuals?
For what case?
Over the State Theater?
We are listed on the bankruptcy court documents, yes.
So we are being sued?
It's
I know it's a nasty word, but...
No, no, I'm trying to, so there's a couple different things for the State Theater for that. So the State Theater, it is the bankruptcy court that is asking for us to pay the contractors that did the work in the park. And they're also asking the contractors that did that work in the park to repay the money back to them. So there's a couple, it's just very convoluted. So we are,
So we're still in it.
we're still in it, yeah.
Okay,
and
I
we're
thought
filing
maybe it
briefs,
got
but-
switched to individuals, because I read a couple articles.
Yeah, I think they're kind of going out on their own too, the contractors, just so they can fight on their side as well.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Just real quick, echo on the snow events. Kudos to staff. I've heard lots of good comments. Just to remind folks to not only, if you could, when we have these kind of snow events, it's helpful when cars are not in the roadway, in the side streets. If somehow you can move those, and then also sidewalk. And I know I hear a lot of folks that walk. If residents are responsible for their own sidewalks, it is helpful if you can get that done. I do want to say, in regards to the bridges, I think a lot of people are frustrated about it. I think the city's expressed that frustration, and I don't think we're coddling them. I think we're holding them accountable, and that's, I think we should. So we have an agreement, and we believe that they should be held accountable to that agreement, and that's what our lawyers are advocating for. So just to make that clear. I do want to also say, I did get quite a few folks contact me about commissioners leaving during the meeting before it's over. So that's a big concern, especially during public comment time. So if you can refrain from that, leaving, that would be helpful. So that's all I have. Thank you. Commissioner Coakley.
Just getting back to the bridges, it's a task we have upon us, but Bay City cannot do this alone financially. We need the help from the county and everybody else to maintain them. We don't have, I heard 200 million that was sunk into them, and whatever happens at that, if we're gonna get them back, I know financially we got in this situation because we didn't have the money. No matter how we got there, we are where we are. But we're gonna need help from the counties, the townships. It's gonna have to be a universal thing to get this going in the right direction too.
All set? City Manager, you have any comments?
I do not.
Okay. Next item calls for public input. Under the rules of the City Commission, each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Commissioner Coakley will serve as the timekeeper. This is the opportunity for citizens to address the commission regarding any agenda item or any other matter. If anyone wishes to address the commission, please come forward, print your name on the registration sheet, and state your name and address for the record. And please be respectful. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Douglas. I'd like to thank you.
Make sure the little light's on. There's a little green.
Yeah, it's on. It's
Or
on.
perfect.
That's my
Just
bad.
yeah, make sure you speak into it.
I want to bring to you guys' attention the fact that I have physical proof that that shelter has at least a dozen people outside sleeping in this cold. They have refused to tell people where they are at on the list. They have taken me off twice in the last month for no reason. They supposedly tell you that if you get called 3 times by them and you don't answer or respond at all, that then you're removed from the list, which makes sense, right? Now, explain to me how I called them 4 days ago on Wednesday. I get told I'm on the list, but they can't tell me where I'm at. And I know they've told other people where they're at, so that's already a lie. So I call them the next day, and I'm told I'm not on the list, even though I've just been on it the day before. This has now happened for a month and a half consecutively, and I can show you my phone where I have call logs, and the only time they have called me was yesterday at 4:30 in the afternoon after I had to call them for the 8th time this week and leave them a voicemail. This has become a numerous issue. You guys have 16-year-olds that are sleeping in this cold because of that shelter. In my opinion, that is a complete failure. That is not acceptable under any circumstance. That you have children sleeping outside. Yes, the Dream Center is open tonight from 8 p.m. till 8 a.m. tomorrow, and as well as tomorrow, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. But that only helps for 2 days, and I understand that they're run entirely by whatever support that they're given from the community. So I feel like more resources needs to be allocated to people getting shelter. You have literal people that are dying and getting pneumonia and getting sick because they don't have anywhere to sleep. And, you know, there's people that they go sleep in abandoned buildings, but they can't do that because then it's trespassing and they get arrested. And these are good people. I know people with children that are sleeping in their cars with heaters because they literally have nowhere to go. We shouldn't have to leave our home and go to Saginaw or Midland or Auburn because our own city doesn't have the resources to help us. Personally, I've done what I could for the last month, but I have nowhere to go tonight aside from that Dream Center. And when they close 48 hours from now, I have nothing. I have no money. I have no transportation. I walk everywhere. So I'm kind of to the point where I want to know what you guys, as the city council and the city manager, is doing to rectify this. You have people dying in your city and people that have committed suicide in that shelter because of the fact that it is that bad. So does anybody have any comment?
I'm sorry, so this is a one-way communication to the council, but you can stay afterwards, we can have a conversation. It's just, it's the setup of the Robert's
I
Rules.
understand. I wanted to bring it to your guys' attention because to me, I'm 22. So, you know, I've been around the block a little bit. I can kind of handle it. You know, I'm not like completely incapable. But I'm talking, you guys have 16-year-olds that are getting kicked out of their house because they're having fights with their parents and they're having to sleep out in this, or they've got abusive households and they've got nowhere to go. It's completely to the point where people should not have to worry about getting arrested because they need a warm spot to sleep. So all I'm going to ask on behalf of the entire city and all of my friends that are currently sleeping in this condition, please make an effort. There's at least a dozen abandoned buildings across town that could be refurbished or rehabilitated into any type of warming center or emergency shelter for people. I know the Prestolite building has sat vacant for at least a decade, and I understand that that's a big project to undertake. But at this point, something has to be done because you guys are literally killing people by not fixing the issue of that shelter. And on top of that, let's bring up the fact that the shelter imposes on our constitutional right to the freedom of religion, because if you stay there, it is in their rules that you are forced to go to chapel for at least half an hour a day. I don't believe in organized religion. Why should my freedom and my literally constitutional right be violated because I need a place to live? Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Kleinow, 1713 10th Street. Just a second. I need a little help, so I'm going to read off my notes here. I'm here to comment on the ongoing situation with the bridge tolls and what I think are the continuing priorities and reinforce them if possible. I saw Commissioner DeWitt's post of the current status on Facebook, and frankly, I'm thankful he did, even if it was a bit unorthodox. The people of Bay City should be up to date on a regular basis on what UBP is asking for, what the city's counter demands are, and what timeline we can expect, and how UBP is reacting. This is a serious issue. The unlimited crossing option going away will realistically turn this town into a single bridge, heavy congestion city for a majority of working families and businesses that need to cross multiple times a day. It is unignorable. A massive economic drain if it goes through, pushing monthly crossing costs from families from $15 a month to $150 or $200 or more per month, just from the removal of that option. This is not about a 15 to 30 increase. The removal of the plan is the problem. Our unfortunate neighbors outside city limits in the south side, where there's a bridge closed, in Essexville, where they don't have an option, are trapped by those tolls and that closure entirely as a result of the prior commission's vote to sell these bridges. And keeping further negotiations in the dark does a disservice to the people who are now worst affected by the results of that vote. I strongly disagree that deals in the dark will solve this issue. We need to know what is proposed, what was rejected, and why at each step of the process. Yes, the city sold a lease to UBP, but that does not mean UBP is now our landlord. They do not get to dictate the terms in which we use the bridges that we still own. They are our tenants, not the other way around. And so I expect the City Commission to apply pressure legally, just as much as I expect the community to organize boycotts for pressure of their own. UBP cannot be another example of another private equity firm farming our people for ever-increasing passive income at the expense of our livelihoods. They're a service that we signed with in trust, and we should expect of them what we should expect of any utility, and proposing demands and counterdemands behind closed doors is just an extension of how we got into the mess in the first place. With that said, I think the demands that we want as a city are still simple enough that UBP should be plenty able to comply, or else we should find a way to force an end to the lease if they insist on putting the screws to us. 1, make the unlimited plan permanent. Cap its increase to the same rate as the tolls, with the expectation increases are for covering costs, not for further lining equity pocketbooks. Letting UBP argue this plan was not a toll, even if the lease may technically allow them to do so because it was poorly written, is ridiculous, and pressure needs to be applied to prevent it. If they end that option, it will be disastrous for local businesses and families alike. 2, no more delays on fines. We need clear, rapid responses with clear and fair rules laid out on their website and max fees no greater than the cost of the toll that was missed. Getting charged hundreds of dollars for a single or a couple missed fines is absurd. We should demand basic functionality of a bridge operator that was promised us. And 3, their plan's attempt to unilaterally screw us over has shown potential weaknesses in the original lease. So now we need to be firm in our expectations for the future and use any power we have to cover those holes. Just because they can do something doesn't mean we should let them. Ending the unlimited plan is disastrous for anyone not living or working near Vets Bridge. We are Bay County, and Bay County is us, and it's absurd that county people, most screwed by this proposed toll change, do not qualify for toll exemptions based on poverty levels, or from my reading of the lease, they're county municipal vehicles doing essential work. So with no toll exemption and no unlimited plan, this is absurd profit farming from UBP. We need to demand the county's inclusion in those plans and those waivers and get their support and solidarity if we want to successfully have the power over UBP we should have and use as the owners of the bridges. And we need to be bringing the county into those negotiations as well. There are definitely further demands that we could request, but at least those are the 3 I believe are top of mind. To finish, if UBP can't agree to those demands, the Commission should be letting us know each step of the way so we, the people of Bay City, know what is happening and who is screwing us over and the reasons they claim as they do it. Backroom deals help nobody but UBP. We are the lessor, they are the lessee. Air it all out so the city knows why UBP thinks charging people 10x the cost they expected is essential for providing an essential public service, and not just because their private equity owners have demanded just one more instance of maximized shareholder value. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I only hope to be as elegant. My name is Matthew. I got to write it down.
Yeah, yes, please.
Well, I'll get to that in a bit. My name is Matthew Sylvester. I'm 904 Marsac. And I just want to say, I get that negotiations are private. You know, actually, as a teacher, I came here, I was like, a whole thing ready. Like, I've caught messages between students, like, ooh, what did they say about us? I wanted to know, like, what's the secret? But I know, I get that people have private business negotiations, especially between private businesses, but this, Bay City is not a private business. And don't look at it like the Bay City budget. Please look at it as my money, the money I pay into this. And I don't want to hand my money over to criminals. If they've violated this lease, that's wrong. I think that's a reason to get out of this lease. Once again, as a teacher, sometimes when you have like a really bad student, you've got to like discipline them really hard the first time they make a mistake, so they know that there's a line, a boundary that can't be passed. And in my class, I have an obligation to the rest of the kids, the same way you guys have obligations to your constituents, to me, to our money, to get the best deal for your buck. And I think like they're breaking the lease. Why are you going to go back and reward them with more negotiations? I would like them to publicly say what they're asking, like what amount are they paying, what amount are we paying for our own bridges? And I would like the committee, the county, to be included in the use of those bridges. If the county was included, there'd be less traffic. And I think the traffic's an eyesore, a blight, and I am worried that somebody is going to die if an ambulance cannot get from point A to point B fast enough because of that traffic. And I had some notes here, but I was just really angry, and it kept being like, why are we working with criminals? Why are we working with criminals? They broke the lease. To my understanding, that's like a crime, and we should get a better deal. Have them publicly say what they are. Have other bridge partners. I'm sure lots of private equity groups would love to be our bridge partner, but this one, I think we should pull out of negotiations. And you said leverage. I understand not wanting to lose leverage, but how much leverage do you want them to have over us? How much leverage should the United Bridge Partners have over Bay City? I don't want them to have any leverage over me. I hope you wouldn't let them have any leverage over us, because we're all in this together. We're all on the same team. I don't know if Bay City Bridges is here, but we're just trying to do the best we can. And those prices, that's sick. That's disgusting. Doubling your price. I'll end my time. No, it's not as elegant as what was said before. But these bridges have upset me. They've upset a lot of people, and they've probably upset you. Please, if it upset you, if you feel it crossed a boundary, stop it. I felt like it crossed a boundary. Please stop it. And we don't have to work with this bridge partner. There could be others. And we have all the leverage. We have the bridges. We have the legal authority to do whatever you guys have the legal authority to do. That's the leverage. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm gonna ask just the applause. If you could hold the applause, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay to snap sometimes because I'm back. I was going to try to spare you guys tonight, but I'm sorry I can't. Okay. Most of you have received the letter from me already. I'm going to try to stick to my script this evening.
You have to state your name and address for the record.
Oh, Tracy Zane, local advocate for the homeless and unsheltered population, Wicked Emporium Studios and Company. I'm going to do my best to stick with this. My plan this year was to kind of let the new commission that's doing an outstanding job, y'all, thank you, handle most of my concerns. But I'm sorry, Mr. Douglas, I've never met before until tonight, and now I have a bigger problem. I'm writing to express outrage and concern about the recent loss of 2 children in Detroit, Michigan, who froze to death in a van due to inclement weather. I'm sure everyone is aware of the story and how she asked for help numerous times from her city. Interesting, huh? This tragic event has shaken me to my core, and I'm compelled to bring to your attention the failures of our own agencies here in Bay City. The city manager declared a state of emergency for the winter storms last Wednesday. Where was the emergency for our unsheltered individuals at that time? I know it's not her responsibility, nor the city's. I've been told before it's not their responsibility, so we'll give her the pass. As I've worked over the last several weeks to help those in need, I've been met with denial and exile by some of the very agencies that say that they're here, ready to help. You know what they tell me? We don't have any funding. They've told me, they've told several people that we've been trying to help, that there's nothing there. But the moment that I'm able to get someone from the commission involved, push a couple buttons, and people have a place to sleep at night. Interesting, isn't it? So here we are. This is the stark contrast, highlights a larger issue about resource distribution and your bureaucratic insufficiency. It appears that our system is flawed, and those in power are more concerned about maintaining the status quo than providing to those who desperately need it. It's a lottery for the unsheltered in our area. A local organization, the very one that's holding the night shelter tonight, they claimed on their Facebook just the other evening that they didn't need it. There wasn't a need. But yet this week, my grassroots movement helped 8 people. 6 of those are a family. Guess what, y'all? They live in a camper here with 4 children.
we're next on the list to lose somebody if we don't start taking action. Now, we've got them the services they need, but here's the kicker. They can go to Auburn and stay in a hotel, or while their children go to Essexville schools, and while mom works here locally in town. So, oh, but wait, did I tell you? She's lost her job this week. She has one paycheck left. Her lot rent at the state park is $154 this Wednesday. If y'all would like to forward me $1, I would appreciate that. How and when are we going to help these people? Not one agency across this state has funding available. Why? Because we're full. And they anticipate, according to our PIT count, an increase. We're up 2% across the state. 170,000 people homeless. We just gave Mr. Good Samaritan a $400,000 expansion. Where, last Wednesday when the city declared the state of emergency, where was his emergency for these folks? We have lots of questions. Last drop-in, emergency drop-in, where I had to get slighted. My organization provided those volunteers. Not all of them, but let me tell you about the other 11 who have yet to receive a thank you from the very organization they gave their time to. They were average citizens in your community who volunteered their time. You want to talk about disorganization of that drop-in? Where was the in-service for us folks that gave of our time for safety? Where was the first aid kit? 55 on the heat, and then a solicitation for plugging in an extra crock pot that night for electric? Oh wait, we just solicited our very neighborhoods again for multiple items for a 2-day drop-in, when the last time we had a drop-in there were so many things, they had to be distributed back to the other organizations.
Yep. Commissioner Prince.
Motion to give 2 more minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any objection? Seeing none, continue.
It's endless, y'all. It doesn't, Mr. Streeter said it himself. It takes every organization, and I'm not. This grassroots movement that I operate in a small building that's a gift to me, that cost me nothing, operates on nothing but community power, community donations. And us, those a part of Wicked Emporium for the last 7 months, have been taking care of our unsheltered population right along with you on our dime. No money, no resources, plugging in every agency that we have here for these people to get turned away time and time and time again, and to be told no until somebody in the circle jerk gets to flip the switch. Unfortunately, I can't include these gentlemen or these ladies on this commission because they're all new. But we know what you all have done to this organization over here. You've slighted us. You've said it to me, Mr. Gerard, in messages. Your family priorities were more important when I asked you last Wednesday where was the help. What did you say to me? Do you want to say it, or would you like me to? Oh, no, nope.
Yeah.
Point of order. You can't, can she pick some, I'm learning this on I'm learning on my own.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm getting information.
No.
So is she allowed to do that? To basically, okay. No, like I said, I'm learning,
You can make in general comments, but you cannot call one person out by name.
Okay, sorry. I
Okay.
apologize. I'm unaware. I'm still learning. Like I said, I'm a
Like I said-
humanitarian. I've only learned politics in the last 7 months in my defense.
same thing, just wanted to make sure.
I'm trying hard.
You still have 30 seconds left.
Okay. Nonetheless, either here nor there, when people in charge take the city on, isn't it your responsibility to take care of your residents? And you know what? I'll leave it at that. Have a good day, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Lori Ward at 800 Germania. I I wanted to make a comment about the bridge decision. I think it was the poorest decision ever made by a city that will affect us long-term. It was a very short-sighted decision. But as far as this new doubling of the rates, I think now is the time to put the hammer down to Bay City Bridge Partners, or basically they're going to keep doing this and doing this and doing this. You're talking about negotiating, coming up with a compromise, whatever you're doing. The fact remains, they're holding the bridges hostage, but we own the roads, which includes the roads to the bridges. So that is your leverage, and I think we should use it now before they keep doing this, and they'll add a little more and add a little more. We own the roads to the bridges. If that isn't leverage, I don't know what is. Thank you.
Good evening, Commission, Mayor. My name is Jeanette Douglas. I am the mother of Paul Douglas.
Can you state your address, please?
I do not have one except for the Good Samaritan, where I am currently staying, and that is what I'd like to speak to you about. It took me 6 weeks to get into there. And in that time, I have seen at least a dozen people be removed for some very frivolous reasons. I have seen discrimination. I have seen racism. I have had myself, I have been robbed twice by people that were in my room. They show favoritism. They are picky about who they let in there. I have seen them throw somebody out and 2 days later let the same person back in. And I have talked to quite a few people in this town. I drive for Hollywood's Taxi, and I am all over the town on the weekends. And I've heard from more than one person on multiple occasions that they were removed because they had a marijuana cigarette in there. Now, if marijuana is legal, as is tobacco, I do not understand why it is not allowed in the shelter. If tobacco is a controlled substance and so is marijuana, neither should be allowed. But yet they do. They also let people bring in things. We're only allowed water at night or hard pieces of candy. There are children that after 5 o'clock in the evening, they are still hungry and they are not allowed to have anything to eat. This is wrong the way they treat people. I looked out the window the other day and there was a screen that's hanging off the window, and I said something to staff and they're like, oh yeah, whatever. They're not helping people, they're hindering them. And these agencies, the United Way, basically told me, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Mid-Michigan has told me the same thing. I have lived here my entire life and never been treated so badly as I have been now. And I always try to help people. So I would like to see you guys do more for the homeless that doesn't involve the Good Samaritan. I'd like to see another shelter set up. I'd like to see the bridges get taken care of, because I have been tempted to walk in there and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And to find out for myself. I want to know the answers to these issues. And I would like to see some resolution. And if there's anything I can do to bring it more to your attention in a positive way, then I'm more than happy to help you. But I do talk to more people than you guys get to in a day, because I'm all over town. So I'm asking for help for the homeless in this city and those who really need it. Thank you, and you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lorelei Dorr. My husband and I own a business here called Born Again Homes. We buy Victorian homes and we rehab them. We have 5 buildings at this time, 3 of them in the historic district. But I'm not here about that. I'm here about the house that I live in and the house that we own next door to the house that I live in, which is at 614 Broadway Street. My husband bought that building in 1980. It's a duplex, and we bought the one next door just 2 years ago. It is a private family home. I have a video that I put together. I put it on my Facebook, or not my Facebook, I put it on my YouTube channel, showing the sidewalk, which looked like it does right now in 1980. This will be now the 5th time that I have come here and petitioned for this sidewalk. I have no idea if you can see from there what this sidewalk looks like. Can you see it?
Well, we don't quite, Commissioner. Okay.
So 4 of the homes on this short block between 21st and 22nd Street live on this sidewalk. The last time my husband went to talk to the city planner, the answer that he got was, well, you know, the sidewalk across the street is okay. Great. The problem with that is that when I did complain the last time that I came to a commission meeting, my commissioner told me that they would certainly come take a look, they would be there the next day, and that they would hear back from me immediately. Here I am 9 months later. Anyway, so I am saying this, that if since 1980, 45 years ago, that this sidewalk has not been able to be addressed, I have to question why it is last year on every building that we own, the taxes went up. When where I'm at, it's considered the red zone on the south end there, after 20, I think it's after 19th Street, where back about 3 years ago, they had a housing meeting and said, this is the red zone. We recommend that you don't put any money in over there as far as updates, because we are one of the lower, if you want to call it, property tax areas. I'm here to say this again. I'm here to say this for the 5th time. I would like this fixed, please, and I'd like it fixed quickly. It's been 45 years. My shot in the swamp is that somebody within a 45-year span could have come to this one little 5-house block between 21st and 22nd Street on Broadway and fixed this sidewalk. I'm here to say it again. Please, get this done. Because if my taxes keep getting raised, we have solicitors all over town. I live in the area where they're going to export. I'm like 2 blocks, maybe 3 blocks away from Lafayette Bridge. Solicitors are already calling because they know that when Uptown expands all the way to the Lafayette Bridge, once that's done, that property value is going to go up exponentially. I just got a call today. Hey, do you own this house? Are you interested in selling? Hey, do you own the house next door? Are you interested in selling? 3 weeks ago, hey, do you own this house? Are you interested in selling? It's getting more and more tempting. But the people who are buying these buildings that we put back together that look like haunted houses when we get them, and we put them back together, they're not going to take care of them the way that we've taken care of them for 45 years. And we've done it on our own dime. We're not a big organization. We are a mom and pop. And we've made the commitment to this city. I like this city. I didn't grow up here, but I like it here. I've been here long enough to say that I'm from Bay City. This is really absurd. Absolutely absurd. The other thing that happened was somebody decided that they needed to put the guy wires from this very large pole that's at the corner of 22nd and Broadway, and they put them in the front yard of my house next door. They didn't put them the other way where it could have gone on the city's owned boulevard. They put them in my front yard. And no matter who it was I talked to or what it was I had to say about it, it went absolutely flatly nowhere. And then they raised my taxes. This is wrong. This is wrong. And it shouldn't happen. One more comment. How about those bridges, huh? You know, I think sometimes when you're offered a good deal that sounds too good to be true, it likely is.
Time.
Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Kayla Harper. I'm here representing the Bay City Bridge Resistance Group. 2 weeks ago, I stood here and I expressed my frustration with the situation. Since then, our bridge resistance movement has grown to thousands of residents, people from every background who refuse to let Bay City Bridge Partners hold our community hostage. We've heard story after story from families now forced to choose between paying tolls or affording basic necessities, which many of you were in attendance for at last week's protest, heard me share. We've heard from people whose families will now face paying nearly $3,000 a year just to get to work and school. Countless small businesses that are losing customers because people are shopping in Saginaw or Midland instead of coming to Bay City. And residents on disability who can no longer afford to get to their doctor's appointments. I've heard all of these stories and more. I would also like to make you aware that Bay City Bridge Partners shared via Facebook 2 hours ago that every weeknight for the next 3 weeks, Independence Bridge will be closed. They weren't supposed to start tolling until after completion, which they seem to be skirting in underhanded ways. Tonight, I'm asking this commission to provide regular updates to the public as this crisis unfolds. The residents of Bay City deserve more than vague reassurances. We deserve transparency and a clear plan forward. Additionally, I'm calling on this commission to initiate an economic impact study to formally measure how Bay City Bridge Partners is affecting local businesses, residents, and the city as a whole. We already know that people are avoiding shopping in Bay City and that businesses are losing customers. But a study would provide hard data to show exactly how much damage this company is doing to our city. This kind of formal analysis could be a critical tool in legal challenges, media coverage, and state-level interventions. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patty Dollinger. I live at 1010 6th Street. I had a lot to say, but it was interesting experiencing a city commission meeting for the first time. I moved here 5 years ago. I've invested a lot of all my personal money into homes. I own 20 homes here. Started from ground zero. But everything that I have planned to say isn't relevant right here. I, for the first time today, watched last commission meeting, first in my history. Never a political person. My background is running television stations. Media, I know it. So when I watched that meeting today, I heard you, Mayor, who I've interacted with slightly since I've lived here, and I watched it. And one of the things that you said that was important to you was transparency and accountability. I don't find any of that here. What I hear is excuses. There's a decorum. I don't know it. I do in life, but here. I don't know Ms. Obershaw, but I know that she has said things to try to get progress. And I know that she's been shut down. She made a resolution, from what I learned, 6 months ago to have legal counsel come in here and advise us. It didn't get passed. I heard you say that. It should have. I'd like to reenact that. Why can't we have lawyers here to explain to us? Because I don't trust you. This body, not this particular body, but the commission and the city manager made this deal. So now we're going to negotiate now at 5 years later? Really? Are we that stupid? Transparency, accountability. What is accountability? Who gets held accountable for making this go? Did we reach out to the state for the billions in infrastructure? Don't think so. Did we go on legal advice? Did they give us legal advice not to enter into this? If they did we ignore it? Did they not give us legal advice? Well then, aren't they kind of culpable? I don't know. But I know that other people here, there, are asking questions. I don't hear you asking questions. I hear name blaming, shifting it off. the buck stops here. The fish stinks at the head. So it's this council or it's the manager. I don't have faith that the management has the capacity or ability to tackle this problem, or we wouldn't be here. Somebody needs to be fired. Is that such a bad thing if you don't do your job? I've been fired. You know? Why are you still here, Dana? You negotiated this contract. The city council took your advice. You've got a review based upon your contract with the city by March 31st to have a performance review on goals.
Point of order on this.
ability.
I have to get clarity on it.
What?
I have to find out what the, is she okay to do this?
Calling people names. She is saying exactly what she
Point of
needs
order.
to say.
Sergeant of Arms.
Yeah, are we okay with where this is? I'm learning a lot of this myself, so.
I get it, but where's
Yeah.
freedom of speech? I'm not being rude to anybody.
No, it's good.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to state your opinion, you just can't state names. They're just in general opinions.
Okay. Take another advisement. Again, I'll come back to, we can say words like accountability. It's a beautiful word. We can say something like transparency, but all I hear here is, oh, we'll get back to you later. Hey, we'll talk to you after the meeting. Where is the public forum to actually show that transparency? For me, I don't see it. For me, I don't see performance reviews on a lack of, well, it's not even a lack, it's a dereliction of duty. Somebody's got it. Maybe it's more than we know. But are you going to be transparent? Are you going to hold people accountable? Or are those words? What form can you put forth that people that ask these questions can have the answer, that they can communicate? I mean, he wanted to look at I'm sorry, I didn't say name. Somebody on the council wanted to look at a simple phone in answering to one of their constituents, and it was like, oh, can we do this? Really? Really? Maybe there's some questions you should ask yourself, because I think people are waking up everywhere, and this isn't going to get easier. So hold accountability as an option, but mean it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make it real clear. There are rules that we're following. This is not, like, we don't run things any different than other municipalities do around the country. There's rules for a reason. And it's not to be mean or to not listen. We're here to listen, but there's a process in place, and that's why we're trying to follow that process. So okay, all set?
Cindy Hinkle, 401 State Street. I've been to a couple of commissioners' meetings, and we've talked about homeless and what have you, and I've heard comments in the audience. Last time I was here, one said, why should the city help the homeless? A few minutes ago, someone said, well, get a job. I mean, come on, do you think homeless people want to be homeless? You know, if you have a job to, you know, if you own a business or have something, hire them. You know, sit there and make comments. You know, people don't want to be homeless. You know, I think I know it's not the city's responsibility, but how about we just be kind and nice? Not everybody's under the same circumstances of being homeless. We don't know what their circumstances are. There's so many that rent so high. You know, maybe they don't have a car. Yes, they could take a bus. You know, well, if the job is nighttime where the buses aren't running. There's just so many, you know, obstacles in their way when you're homeless. It's hard to dig yourself out. You know, and to sit there and make comments, well, the city isn't responsible or get a job. You know, I just want to say nobody wants to be homeless. And I'm sure if they could get a job, they would have. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward for public comment?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm here tonight to complain about a different cost problem.
Mr. Luzak, you have to state your name and address.
Oh, sorry. Richard Luzak, 1707 Fremont. You've heard a lot of complaints tonight about the tolls on the bridges. I'm here to complain about a cost of something else, and that is the cost associated with Freedom of Information requests. I put in a rather trivial request last year that cost me over $58, and I think that's excessive. One of the rates was like $37 an hour, I think, for searching or something. And then there's cost for reproduction of materials. This all derives out of the state law, which defines the appropriateness of these things. I want to focus on the cost of searching. I got a master's degree in computer science like 35 years ago, and I can tell you one of the major topics in computer science is searching and finding the best way to search for things. And when it comes to a point in time for the city government to develop goals for each of your departments, I think that one of the goals that that you should submit to them is a goal for improving, in other words, decreasing the cost of searching times for documents. And one way to achieve this is to have each department, over the course of time, submit to your IT department the documents that they're holding and the location where they are, so that when it comes time to search for them, it doesn't take, back in 1976, the way the law is written, you have the image of a clerk going into a file and pulling out pieces of paper one by one to search for it. Well, now with computer searches, if things are organized in a database underneath the Freedom of Information Act request, there should be a database that allows the public to get access to information at the lowest cost that's available. Another complaint that I have about the Freedom of Information Act, last year I submitted a request to the manager to have a tour of the wastewater treatment plant, and I wanted to have access even to laboratory data. And in response to that, I got a phone call from somebody at the wastewater plant, and I mentioned specifically what I was looking for. In the wastewater's permit, the level of PCBs, I think, is a very important issue. And I said that I wanted to see their laboratory records for PCBs. And what I was told over the phone was that they were not going to let me see it. I mean, this is an absolute violation of the Freedom of Information Act. There's nothing confidential or personal about laboratory data for PCBs. What I was told was that Eagle comes in and looks at it every 3 months, and they simply were not going to give it to me. They were not going to let me see it. Well, I got the information from a different source. I got it from the state level, from somebody high up in Eagle. But generally speaking, that's my point, is that I think you should take a look. There's a lot of things on your plate that you have to deal with, but as far as information technology goes and Freedom of Information Act, I think you should start paying attention to how much it costs to fulfill Freedom of Information requests, and to look at the reasons why it costs as much as it does. The trivial information that I asked for last year should not have cost me over $58, which it did. And so I'm sure that you are more focused on a large number of people who are concerned about tolls on that bridge.
Time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody hear me? I need to adjust this. Nicole Gross, 3102 West Shore Drive. So what I've been hearing since I've been attending these meetings is concern for the future of Bay City. I'm concerned for the future of this town. This is where I was born and raised. Another thing that I haven't made public is that I put in 4 years of homelessness here and received absolutely no support from any agency. So that was also during COVID. My journey into homelessness didn't start in 2017, but that was the level that I was at was probably the worst, and it was following 4 years of being a homeless advocate in Lansing. I worked very closely with the agencies there to help out the people there, and attended meetings and know how it worked. Our crisis team was very helpful versus criminalizing the homeless. And that kind of came about because of suggestions that people like me made. I think that Bay City would benefit greatly from that. As far as the Samaritan is concerned, I never stayed there, and I made that choice for what I felt was a good reason. I actually had a close friend and her children staying there, and she was put out to make room for another family when she did everything to jump through the hoops of the program. She even got approved for a HUD Mr. Choice voucher, but no landlord in Bay City would establish it, and you only have a time frame, a certain amount of time. She was put out on the street and had to have family from Clare pick her up and take her all the way to Escanaba, because that was the only place in Michigan that would help her and her children. She got out of homelessness, and she's a CNA now, and she's doing well. And I also got out of homelessness, not because of any support in my hometown, but because of COVID and the stimulus checks. And I now give back. I would like to speak as a homeless person, formerly homeless person. I don't really feel it's still former. But as much as we care about the people in this community and the future of this community, we should consider everybody, and every homeless person as a future employee, a future person that can be giving back to their community, which I'm doing. And nobody chooses it. There's lots of choices that people make that aren't good, and it affects people differently. Some people turn to drug addiction after becoming homeless and not having the support there. Other people are enabled in their drug addiction and they never experience homelessness. So we can't blame drug addiction as being the culprit of homelessness, because the entire time that I was homeless, I never used anything. I didn't even drink. And I'm not a minority as I thought I was. I'm a majority, because the majority of the people that are homeless now are families. The largest number in the population are children, and that increased since 2024. What happened in Detroit is disgusting, but not surprising. There were many nights that we fell asleep in the truck and we did not say goodnight to each other. It was myself, my elderly mother, who ended up becoming terminally, she was labeled terminally ill with cancer and died while homeless, and my daughter. And many nights we didn't say goodnight to each other, we said goodbye, because we knew what the temperatures were and we didn't have enough gas to run to keep warm. We're still here. I am anyways, and I'm using my voice now. It's taken a minute because I believe in homeless-induced trauma. I've experienced it now, and it destroys a person. I won't be the person that I was before this, and I certainly, as an advocate, will not look at homelessness the way that I used to. It can happen to anyone. And I just want to be a voice, and I want to say that idea of going to the Good Samaritan and checking it out for yourselves and inspecting it, real good idea. Real good idea, because the time that I spent there sitting in the office and they didn't know who I was and I wasn't a resident, I was actually trying to find a resident, I saw a lot of things that were they reaffirmed why I would never want to stay there. It's absolutely disgusting the way they treat everybody. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce Eckhart, 810 Germania. First of all, I want to compliment Mr. Alexander DeWitt on coming out about transparency. I love it. I can't believe it. I don't know if he got that from our president or Leon Musk, what happened, but he got it. And that's, I hope the rest of you commissioners start thinking about transparency. Quit being like sheep. Your wards want you to do what they say. You don't do one person. That's why our country is in so much trouble right now, because they listen to one person and they say, do this, you do this, they do it. Open up the borders. Why not, man? Bring all the illegals in. Oh, right. Bring all the fentanyl in. And all these great senators from Michigan, they all shut their mouth. They didn't do nothing, did they? But let me tell you, they're illegal. The migrants, they are illegal. And yet these people, street people, we never had so many street people until the last 4 years. The other administration had taken over. You see what they've done. They've cut energy down. They've done everything, prices up and all that. Lost jobs, families, all that stuff. And it's all the blue states. Start looking at the blue states. They're the ones that are doing all this. That's why we got to have transparency. And I notice right now, like $260 million in the Board of Education they're more or less eliminating that, goes to DEI. All the schools, they're going to eliminate that. We're going to go back to basics. And also, I like what they said. Your teachers might be in trouble now. You might have more work to do, because now you're going to have separate boys and girls restrooms. Boys cannot go with girls' restrooms. That means your teachers might be more busy. And also, I see they donated $350 million to the teachers to sit around and talk about races. They eliminated that too. But getting to back, this is all part of Bay City, by the way, just in case you didn't know. We've got to go back to transparency again. Talk about the bridges. How this all happened. I remember how it happened because I was there. And so was, we know who, the mayor was there. He negotiated that. I know he did, because he is my ward. And all of a sudden, I don't know what the deal was, but he must have thought it was pretty good, because he didn't ask me, because I was against it. We had a lot of people. They all were against it. But somehow they come out of a deal with a toll bridge. And that was a bad mistake. And this is what we got today. So I would say he is the guilty one, and he keeps, somehow, doesn't want to answer his questions. I remember the last day before election, I think it was let's see, it'd be the 21st, because the election was next week, and that was the last meeting here. And I do remember Alexander here, but Chris was not here, because I wanted to ask him questions. I kept asking before. I said, Chris, you want to be mayor? Please explain what happened. Talk more about the bridge. What about the $800,000?
Point of order again. Just, you can talk about it, but not mention names.
Oh, all right. About the $800,000 that somebody signed this check for. It's like a pattern. We don't have to. We don't know. We're still working on it. I can't believe it, man. I don't know. And then we've got these people here crying about no place to stay, housing, and all this stuff. And back that same day, you had city manager recommended agreement with Bay Futures, which I think we should investigate, because you talk something's wrong there. We don't need them. conducting let's say Bay Futures for conducting activities aimed at stimulating economy for growth for Bay County. That's Bay County. I pay taxes for them, $100,000 annually for 3 years for them, and not my city to help out the homeless. What is going on here? And then you say, we need to have an investigation. All right. We need to do a lot of investigating. I think we need some petitions, possibly. Some people are going to have to be expired. I think they've been in their position too long, and they're not taking care of the people in Bay City first. I'd say that right now, and there's a couple of them I think should be going. And to do that, you got to have the right commissioners in there. That's why you had to watch how they did when they got commissioners, especially that last one we got. I remember when they reviewed 2 more. Oh, Patrick, do you dare? Thank you, Patrick.
Commissioner DeWitt.
Motion for 2 extra minutes.
Thank you.
Is there support?
Second.
Okay. Any objection? All right. You have a couple more minutes.
All right, thank you. I remember when they were reviewing these commissioners, they had some good commissioners. I remember there's 3 of them, and you guys took the vote who you thought was the best. But I remember one back there was from Florida. He was in public city work. He knew all that, and the other guy did too. But he didn't get it. The other gentleman did. That was, I think he lived out he was out in Colorado for a while, and then he went to AWL and all this stuff. I don't remember him telling that, but I saw it in the newspaper, but he got there. I can see why they got it. But like I said, there's one thing I want us, the commission, to know. We are not above the law. Federal law says you got to come through the border illegally. If you're not a migrant. These churches are in trouble right now for what they've done. And you know which one I'm talking about, so let's get off this kick. We're going to turn the other way. How many people up in Chicago all over the place turned the other way? MS-13, they raped your kids, they did all this. What a mess. And you guys got the nerve to come up here, feel sorry for me. I don't know where you wimps are coming from, man. But I don't want you in my county, my state. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward for public comment?
I'm Jill Cosley, 208 West Smith Street. I'd like to apologize in advance for those of you who have been here before and have heard this already. Parts of this I have already said, but I'd like the new commissioners to know the kind of whole story about Station 5. I'm here tonight again to talk about the closing of Station 5 on Smith Street without advance notice to the people of the area of which I am a resident of. Most commissioners and even the mayor didn't know it was closing. Combined Fire and EM&T has worked there for years. This station, along with the station in the south end of the city, were built there for a reason. Response time matters. Bridges and railroad tracks surround our neighborhood on Smith Street. Bridges are at the northeastern and southern parts, which would affect response time. And there are railroad tracks on Hart Street, State Street, Henry Street, Euclid Avenue, Patterson, Marquette, and Wheeler Road. We are literally surrounded by them. They go past at least 4 times a day and into the night. One was timed at 6 minutes just the other day. Response time matters. A fire doubles every minute. Seconds count. Heart attack victims need help immediately. The people in my area are elderly. We need help. My husband had a low sugar episode, which he didn't recognize because he was put on new meds and his sugar had dropped. Usually his sugar ran high. He thought he was having a heart attack. My daughter called 911 and a fire truck was there within a minute. We live 4 blocks away. His sugar level was at 30. I shudder to think what would have happened to him had he had to wait for mutual aid or for the other fire station to get there for more than 5 minutes. It only takes common sense to know that mutual aid fire truck coming from Bangor would not get there as quick as the one from 4 blocks down my street. The timing is not the same. All residents in the Northwest Banks area and all the business in the industrial park there are within 6-block radius of Station 5. Response time matters, and so do the residents in the Northwest Bay City area. I've spoken at many commission meetings, and nothing has happened other than we have found out the amount that it would cost to open our station. So I'm requesting that a commissioner, I don't care which one, put together a resolution to get the station roof fixed so no further damage can be done. The longer you wait, the more it's going to take to fix it. And to find funds needed to fix the rest of the needs of the station. I'm also requesting that someone get the courage to find the funding to hire the amount of firefighters needed at all of the stations in the city. You know, we need firefighters. A commission was supposed to be set up. There was supposed to be a resolution tonight. Is it going to happen? Nope. I don't know why. I don't get it. I really don't understand what the problem is with hiring firefighters, finding the money when we can, and since I've been doing it, it's probably been 6 months. The amount of money that has gone for other projects is over $1 million. It would cost $300,000 to fix this station. It just blows my mind. We need fire and EMT, especially in our area, because response time matters. Thank you, and I'm not giving up. The station needs to be open for the people in our part of the city. We pay taxes, just like everybody else. So I appreciate all you're doing. I'm watching to see what happens next. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we are, the next order of business. Oh, come forward.
Jeffrey, 409 Fillmore. I'm not happy with the Bay City Bridge Partners. I've told you before this in the past. We can't use names. I want to say, Commissioner of the 6th Ward, thank you for your honesty. City Manager, not so much. And it's really disappointing. You know, all we want is some answers. We want some answers and we want the truth. That's really all we want. Nobody wants to come up here and call names. And, you know, the bottom line is here, did they violate the contract? I want a yes or a no. It's simple. That's it. Did they violate this contract? Let's get it out there and let the public know. That's the start. And the second thing is, you're negotiating with who? With liars? This company cannot be trusted, ladies and gentlemen. They've proven to us time and time again, they cannot be trusted. I'd like to know where the $3 million is we got from the bridge partners, that dirty money from them bridges. Where's that $3 million bucks? Is it still in the bank or you start chipping away at it already? I'd like an answer to that, and you can tell us at our next commission meeting. I'd also like to know where the $2 million is from the reefer money. I want to know where that's at, if we spent it, and what's the balance on both of them. I don't think that's too much to ask. myself as a Bay City resident, when I went to get my transponder, they wanted my driver's license and my registration. I gave that to the bridge partners, and then they had a series of other questions that I was required to answer. One of them was, what color was my vehicle? I told them I didn't know. And I don't know what color that vehicle is. There's a bunch of different colors. Because of that, they wouldn't give me a transponder. 2 weeks later, I go back, same story. Now I got a ticket because I got a picture. I said, what color do you think it is? He said that what the color was. I said, that's fine. They gave me the transponder. Ridiculous. But what my point is about this is I looked over the contract, and by me having a transponder, I entered into a contract with the Bay City Bridge Partners. Why are the citizens, they're supposed to be able to cross for free, required to enter into a contract with this private company? I think that's wrong. And that's got to go. Actually, they got to go. Let's see. City manager, you mentioned something in the effect that that was wrong. So at this point, we are exploring what rights we have as a city. Well, that's what we want to know. This is 2 weeks into it. What are our rights? What are our rights as a city? Still, we haven't got any answers. This ain't going to go away. There's a lot of people that come here and spoke tonight, and I say good for everybody, because if we don't stay on top of this, they're just going to plow us under. In my opinion, what rights do we have? Well, in my opinion, because I've heard nothing from the city, we don't know what rights we have. So here's my thought. In my opinion, we have no rights as a city. You gave away our liberty and our independence to the Bay City Bridge Partners, AKA Bridge Pigs. So how am I supposed to celebrate my 4th of July this summer when I don't have my liberty or my independence? That's it. We're going to need some questions at the next meeting, and that's what we're all going to expect. No more lies, no more hiding behind confidentiality crap. Good day.
All right, thank you. Anybody else for public comment? All right, seeing no one, now we're in the next order of business, are items on the regular agenda. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Reports of Officers 5, City Manager recommending traffic control order 2025.2 to change the intersection of Marquette Avenue, State Street, and South Street from a two-way stop to a four-way stop condition. Recommendation approve.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Morris.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Commissioner Runberg.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner DeWitt.
This is probably going to be an engineering question, but I know obviously this intersection is very well known as a blind corner to pretty much everyone. With 7 accidents in 5 years, that's over action limit based off traffic volumes, and 1 being alcohol related. Is there a different option for this to add, like we added downtown bump outs for shorter pedestrian crossings? Would bump outs for those curves be even a possibility at that corner instead? Because I think putting stop signs on Marquette will lead to a large increase, at the very least temporarily, of people coming down and blowing that stop sign, especially if we don't put lights up, which is another added cost. So I don't know if engineering had anything about that.
The engineer can come up and explain. The cost of bump outs, I know, is one of the factors as well compared to a stop sign.
Cold. So the bump outs downtown are about $400,000. This location, the bump outs wouldn't really help much. There's really not much we could do to put a bump out on Marquette and to put a bump out on State. Am I not on? Okay. Sorry. Bump outs on Marquette wouldn't help. And even bump outs on State wouldn't help with the sight distance problem. Marquette, the bump outs would be kind of an issue. We are going to reconstruct Marquette in 2028. We were able to get some BCATS funding to do that. And we'll be looking at that intersection. I can't promise we can do anything. I mean, looking at it, just, from what I looked at, I don't know that there's anything else we can do. I agree that it's not great to put a stop sign on Marquette, but this was the best option we have.
Okay, that's kind of what and your answer about the reconstruction to Marquette in the future, that helped too, because I know that will, even if it doesn't change much, will change how that looks a little bit. So thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Commissioner Tenney?
Yes.
DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
Charlerbois?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Prince?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion's adopted. Would the clerk please read the next item of business?
Communication number 8, Columbus Avenue Management Board Minutes, 6/4/93/11/12 of 2024. Recommendation to receive.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Coakley.
Motion to receive.
Is there a second? Commissioner DeWitt.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Coakley.
Pretty much 8 and 9 are the same thing. Is there any way we can get the minutes a little bit sooner than 6 months out on these things? I, for one, like to look at them,
Most boards are submitting them earlier, but we can talk to the liaisons.
I appreciate it. Just, if there's something going on, I'd like to know about it sooner than that.
All right, anything else? Okay, will the clerk call the motion to adopt?
To receive.
Or to receive, sorry.
Commissioner DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
Charlerbois?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Prince?
Yeah.
Unless you walked out. Okay, Coakley?
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw?
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
7 yes.
The motion receives is adopted. Will the clerk read the next item of business?
Communication 9, Midland Street Management Board Minutes, 6/25, 7/23, 8/27, 9/24, 10/22, 11/19, and 12/17 of 2024. Recommendation to receive.
All right, is there a motion? Commissioner Tenney.
Move to receive.
Is there a second? Commissioner Runberg.
Second.
Any other discussion? Any discussion, I should say. I think it's the same. All right. Will the clerk please call the motion to receive?
Commissioner Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlerbois?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Prince?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw?
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
DeWitt?
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, the motion to receive has been adopted. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Resolution 11, Commission as a whole resolution recommending contract 245582 with the Michigan Department of Transportation regarding funding for the reconstruction of Smith Street at the estimated city's portion of $4,236,269.87. Recommendation approved.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Morris.
Move to approve.
Is there support?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Commissioner Coakley.
Wonderful. Love seeing these streets getting done. Back to bike paths. So we have a bike lane, buffer, parking. So there's a bike path between the parking and the streets. I guess my main thing with the bike paths, I've asked for it multiple times. In fact, I stood in front of the commission almost a year ago talking about this. I would like to see the plan, to know what the plan is. Are we getting grant money for putting the bike paths everywhere? This one is not affected because everybody's keeping their parking, it looks like. But in other streets, we are taking the parking from the citizens. I don't know, I would like to be privy to the plan. I think I've asked for it multiple times, and that's pretty much all it is right now. I just would like to know what's going on so I can share it, because I do get the concerns put to me. The bike paths we did on Johnson, snow plows are already ripping up the markings on the street, so that's going to have to be fixed. That's all. Like I said, wonderful the streets are getting done, but just want to know the plan.
All right, I'll set Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
My big problem is when it says, the Smith Street, reconstruction of Smith Street, and it says at the estimated city's portion of the $4 million, our portion is $4 million. When it says estimated, I'm not understanding our estimated portion. I would like, a complete portion that, we have to pay. I'm not trusting the estimated portion, because we could use, if this is an estimate, there might be money left over. So I want proof of the complete amount because it might not even be that amount. So I'm not trusting this estimate. I want an exact amount that we are going to use out of our budget.
Okay, city manager.
So this has to be bid out still, so you'll get amounts when it comes back with the bids.
Okay, well, I really would like it to be set aside. I don't want to, I really don't feel that we should vote on something that's an estimate.
You're not voting on an estimated amount. It's going to come back to you with bid amounts, with solid amounts. This is just the agreement with MDOT for our share coming from MDOT.
Okay. I'll set Commissioner for right now. There's multiple commissioners. Commissioner Morris.
Call the question.
Is there objection to call the question? All right, seeing none, please call the roll on the question to adopt.
Commissioner Charlebois,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Prince,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw,
No.
Tenney,
Yes.
DeWitt,
Yes.
Rumberg,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
The motion's been adopted. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Resolutions 12, Commission as a whole resolution adding Breaker Cove Street and Breaker Cove Boulevard to the City of Bay City local street system. Recommendation approve.
Is there a motion, Commissioner Coakley?
Approve.
You made the motion. All right, is there a second? Commissioner DeWitt?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Coakley?
Could I get some details on this? This has been in existence for a while. Why is it now becoming a street? What's that going to entail the city to be involved with it?
So the city commission, it's probably been a year now, well, since April, I think, is when the commission voted it in that we were taking those streets back over. They were private, they were part of their homeowners association, and they funded their streets, just things that were in there that city would typically pay for, and they decided that they came to the city with a petition to ask for us to take over, so we took over the maintenance of it.
So it's not gated, I mean, it's open streets now, city
Right.
streets.
So now we'll snow plow it and do road repairs, and if they have something for electric, they'll go in there and do that as well. So this is just to go to the state to get our Act 51 money reversed.
Okay. Thank you.
Set. Commissioner Tenney and then DeWitt.
Nope.
Sorry, Commissioner DeWitt then.
So I was just going to say the same thing because this came back. I remember this has been in the works since late 2022, if I remember when it first came up. So I'm just glad to see this project finally complete and out of our hands in this respect.
All set. Commissioner Prince.
Yeah, just had a quick question regarding the process in which they petitioned to have this added to the local street system. Do we get any money from their HOA to add this, or is it just kind of like, please take this off our hands and we're being good Samaritans and doing it?
It's basically what you just said. Yes, we don't get any money from their HOA.
Dang. Okay, all right, just curious.
All right, any other comments? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Prince,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw,
Yes.
Tenney,
Yes.
DeWitt,
Yes.
Rumberg,
Yes.
Charlebois,
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion's been adopted. Is there any other items on?
Yes.
Yep.
Regular agenda 1, Commissioner Tenney's resolution regarding discrimination reporting.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Tenney.
Move to approve the resolution as presented.
Is there a second, Commissioner Coakley?
Second.
All right, discussion. Commissioner DeWitt.
just have a short statement. I want to thank Commissioner Tenney for putting something forward like this. I want to hope that we use this as a first step to ensure everyone in the city, no matter our race, religion, identity, income, or household situation, are treated equally in the future. I know this is just a resolution for us to be inspirational to, but I want us to use this as actual inspiration to make positive choices for that going forward.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Prince?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw?
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
Charlebois?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, the motion is adopted. Is there any other items of business? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.